I'd like to thank the panel very much. I have a question really for you, Mr. Tyndall, but first of all, Dr. Holtz-Eakin, you've confirmed a lot of the things I've heard as well. Last week I was the breakfast speaker at the Job Creators Alliance Leadership Summit down in Florida, and I heard time and again the very issues that you were raising, so thank you for your comments. And Mr. Golden, I'm a fellow member of the NFIB, a great organization, and I'd like to also congratulate Ms. McQueenie and Mr. Tyndall on being job creators, entrepreneurs in what we know is a tough economic climate, and more so even in understanding the fact that you provide your employees health care, because that's not true of all small business. So, Mr. Tyndall, my concern is jobs, and there's a saying that I have in the business world, you grow or you die as a small businessman. You have to focus on growth. But then again, you've got expenses. So I guess my question to you, and also if you could relate what you're hearing from other folks in the plumbing, heating, and air conditioning business. As your expenses are going up and you're faced with this mandate, my view is you either have to raise prices, but that could cost your company market share because others may not be doing it, or you're going to have to cut expenses. I don't see an alternative. And if that's advertising or other things to get more business, all I'm seeing is a wet blanket on job creation. And I'd like to ask you to speak to your company, but also what you're hearing from other fellow members of your association.
Absolutely. The primary concern is obviously some of my competition does not provide health care to their employees. And this law didn't really do anything to help that. The other thing is that we're not being able to predict the cost of going forward. You know, the implementation of the law was supposed to create a cost controlling mechanism in it, and as a company I haven't seen that yet. I have, quite to the contrary. I mean, the renewals are talking about up to a 50% increase on renewals, which is going to create very much the issues you're talking about. It's unaffordable. We'll have to look at other options, but we still don't consider elimination of health care an option. So it is a great concern, and I guess the biggest problem I have is that it's unpredictable.
Quickly, Dr. Holtz-Eakin, you mentioned the medical device tax. Maybe I'd like to point out, and you certainly know this, but it's 2.3% of revenue, not 2.3% of profits. So if you're a small business and it's 2.3% of revenue and you're just barely breaking even, I can do the math, but I'd like you to share what you think might be happening in those companies subject to that if, in fact, they don't make 2.3% of revenue even to their bottom line.
We actually have a research paper on this, which I'd be happy to provide to you, but the situation is exactly as you characterized it. You have a lot of these companies who have very small profit margins, under 2.3%. The 2.3% chews up all the profit margin. They're typically startup innovator device companies who need to plow that money back into the firm in order to get scale sufficient to market more effectively. They don't have the opportunity to do that. Often they can't hire. At times they need to. And the anecdotal evidence that I've heard already is about several of these firms simply giving up and leaving the industry.
To follow up on that, I assume you could support easily a cap to say if the medical device tax at 2.3% of revenue, but can't exceed something like 10% of profits, which would answer the question of some company where they don't even make 2.3%.
It's certainly modifications like that, which bring the tax burden into alignment with the underlying economics of these enterprises, is the right thing to do. If you put aside the large debate over the desirability of the law, there's a lot of bad tax policy in the Affordable Care Act. If you just look at it as tax policy, the device tax, the investment tax, the health insurance fee, premium tax are all designed in ways that have very perverse economic incentives and need to be fixed.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I yield back. Ranking Member Velasquez, do you have any questions?
No, I don't.
Okay, thank you. I do have one for Dr. Holtz-Eakin. The $100 billion health insurance tax, which is going to be imposed on all health insurance companies, I know my own concern is there may be companies with less than 50 employees. They do provide health insurance. Common sense would say those costs are going to be passed on. Do you have a comment on how the health insurance tax, that $100 billion, might impact any and all health insurance policies?
I expect that tax to be fully passed forward into the premiums that people pay for their health insurance, no question about it.
That would be mine as well. I want to thank Mr. Tyndall, Ms. McQueenie, Mr. Golden, and Dr. Holtz-Aiken for your time today. Your testimony was very valuable. We will continue to monitor the implementation of the health care law and its impact on small business. We will be sending a letter to the Ways and Means Committee, Chairman Camp and Ranking Member Levin, to share the testimony today that we received. And I do ask unanimous consent that members have 5 legislative days to submit statements and supporting materials for the record. Without objection, so ordered. I ask unanimous consent that the following material be inserted into the record: a May 2012 Government Accountability Office report titled Small Employer Health Care Tax Credit, Factors Contributing to Low Use and Complexity. The U.S. Chamber of Commerce fourth quarter 2012 Small Business Outlook Survey showing 86% of small businesses believe that regulations and taxes will impact their ability to operate, with health care regulations causing the most concern, and a February 7, 2013 New York Daily News article titled Small Business Owners Have No Strategy for Coping with Rising Health Care Costs. Without objection, so ordered. The hearing is now adjourned.